Hi guys, welcome to the class of Introduction to Philosophy and Critical Thinking. And today our topic is how philosophy is done: truth, proposition, argument, and fallacies. How the philosophy is done, part 2, in which we will going to discuss proposition, argument, and fallacies. Here is the link for the first part, and now let's discuss the second part of our lecture, how philosophy is done. Basically, we will discuss in this part that what are the definitions of proposition and argument and fallacies in the philosophy. So let's start with the proposition. The term proposition has a broad use in contemporary analytic philosophy. The most basic meaning is a statement proposing an idea that can be true or false. So basically, proposition is a statement in which you give some idea which could be right or which could be wrong. The definition of a proposition is a statement putting forth an idea, suggestion, or a plan. So an example of proposition is the idea that death penalty is a good way to stop crime. So this is the idea or the statement that if we start giving the death penalty to the people who killed other people, so that will be stop the crime. So an example of proposition is a suggestion for a change in the terms of companies bylaw. Another proposition could be that we have to change the companies bylaw. So this is the proposition when we are put forward a idea or a suggestion or a plan. So it's called proposition. So as we have seen that proposition could be true or false. So if a proposition is true, then we say it has a truth value of true. So if the proposition is false, then its truth value is false. For example, grass is green and 2 plus 5 is equal to 5 or proposition. The first proposition has the truth value of the true because grass is green, but the second one is false because 2 plus 5 is not equal to 5. So this is like two different statement. One is like true, have a true value, truth value, and the other one has a false value. It is very important that we know that what is not proposition. So we know what is proposition, but what is not proposition. Like close the door, or is it hot outside, or not the proposition. Also x is greater than 2, where x is variable representing a number, is not a proposition, because unless a specific value is given to x, we cannot say whether it is true or false, or nor do we know what x represents. So it's very important that we should know the specific value of something to have a proposition. And in the first one, we cannot, it couldn't be like in a question mark or a order. So these kind of statements are not proposition. Similarly, x is equal to x is not a proposition because we don't know what x represent, hence what equal means is. For example, while we understand that 3 is equal to 3 means that what does air is equal to air or water is equal to water means, does it mean a mass of air is equal to another mass or the concept of air is equal to the concept of air? So we do not quite know what x equal to x mean is. Thus we cannot say whether it is a true or not, hence it is not a proposition. So basically, unless we don't know the specific value of the things in a statement, it is not a proposition. So here are some of the examples are which are not proposition, like sit down. It is imperative or command, so it is like a commanding sentence which is not proposition. Or plus x plus 1 is equal to 2, and it is not clear, like we have discussed in the previous slide. So then who is there is also interrogative or question marks, a question sentence, so that is not also a proposition. Then 1 plus 2 is expression with a non-true false value, so like x plus 2 is equal to 3. So if we have seen, if we see that like if it is imperative or a commanding sentence, if it is not clear, is not specific, or if it is interrogative or question marks or expression with a non-true false value. So that is also, that is the characteristics of not a proposition. After proposition, the next terminology we use in philosophy is a argument. A crucial part of critical thinking is to identify, construct, and evaluate the argument. So it is very important to have the skill of critical thinking, that we should know how to identify, construct, and evaluate the argument. Without this, one cannot be a critical thinker. So how we define the argument? In logic and philosophy, an argument is a series of statements in natural language called the premises, intended to determine the degree of truth of another statement, that's called conclusion. So we have a series of statements which in a daily language, in a daily speaking language, which is like, which the first part is like premises. Premises mean the ground or assumptions on which we will draw the conclusion. So this is called argument. Continue the defining what is an argument in logic and critical thinking. And then it is in a logic and critical thinking, an argument is a list of statements, like we have already discussed, that is a series of statements, one of which is conclusion, the other are the premises or the assumption of the argument. To give an argument is to provide a set of premises as reason for accepting the conclusion. So premises are reasons to accept the outcome or the result. Here is an example of argument. If you want to find a good job, you should work hard. You do want to find a job, so you should work hard. So the first two are the premises. For example, if you want to find a good job, you should work hard, and if you want to find a job, then you have to work hard. So these are the first two sentences here are the premises of the argument, and the last sentence is the conclusion. To give this argument is to offer the premises as a reason for the accepting the conclusion. Like I told you that to reach to a conclusion, we have to have a premises. Premises mean ground, or premises mean a reasons. So to reach to the outcome or a conclusion. Validity of arguments. Arguments may be either valid or invalid. If an argument is valid, it is valid deductions, and if its premises are true, the conclusion must be true. So validity of argument depend on its premises. If the premises is right, then the conclusion will be right. A valid argument cannot have true premises and a false conclusion. So if your a valid argument cannot be true premises as and a false conclusion. If it's the premises are true, then conclusion is true. So it couldn't be false. So let's differentiate between proposition and argument. Proposition is the act of offering an idea for consideration, an idea or a plan offered, like we have discussed in the proposition's definition. The content of an assertion that may be taken as being true or false and considered abstractly without reference to the linguistic sentences that constitute the assertion. So assertion could be right or assertion could be wrong. The statement could be false or could be true. An assertion so formulated that it can be considered true or false. So you will say something that later on you can prove that it is true or false. So it should be like that, that its validity should be checked. An assertion which is probably can be proved true but not important enough to be called a theorem. So proposition, theorem is a law, so it may be proved to be a true things, but it couldn't be like a law. So what is the argument? a fact or statement used to support a proposition, a reason, like we have already discussed when we were discussing the argument. A series of propositions organized so that the final proposition is a conclusion which is intended to follow logically from preceding proposition which function as a premises. So a series of propositions organized so that the final, so we will put together argument in such a way that reasons, we put a reason in such a way that we will to reach to a calculation, and that calculation is depending on the preceding proposition which function as a premises. What is a value proposition? A value proposition is a promise of value to be delivered, communicated and acknowledged. So it is also believed from the customers that about how value will be delivered, experienced and acquired. A value proposition can apply to an entire organization or a part thereof, therefore, or a customer's account or product or services. So basically value proposition is this, that when you propose something which has a value and you tell them that how your value will be delivered, is called value proposition. Usually we use in a business, in a advertisement. Then when we advertise something, we will basically, we are proposing a, or saying a value proposition, that if you buy this product, it will be give you this much thing. So we are actually trying to sell the value of our product, is called value proposition. The next terms in is the fallacies. Fallacies are common errors in reasoning that will undermine the logic of our argument. So basically when we argue about something, these are the errors when we are putting forward our arguments. Fallacies can be either illegitimate or arguments are irrelevant point, and are often identified because they lack evidence that support the claim. So basically fallacy could be illegal arguments or irrelevant point, are often identified because they lack the evidence that support, or maybe they don't have enough support to support the calculation. So avoid these common fallacies in your own arguments and watch for them in arguments of other. So when you are trying to argue, put forwarding or formulating the argument, try to avoid these fallacies, and also you will see that when other people are giving argument, what fallacies they are, or what mistakes or errors they are doing. A fallacy is also called sophisms. Sophism is the use of invalid or otherwise faulty reasoning or wrong moves in the construction of an argument. So fallacy is basically when we are arguing wrongly. So all at fallacious argument may be deceptive by appearing to be better than it really is. So sometimes they are so good that they are better than the real arguments, but inside they are very deceptive. They have some basic, or inside there is some errors in that. Some fallacies are committed intentionally to manipulate or pursued by deception, while others are committed unintentionally due to carelessness or ignorance. So there are couple of reasons why we have fallacious arguments. Sometimes we do this purposely to manipulate things, and sometimes we do by deceiving other people. So the other thing is that maybe we are doing unintentionally, it is not purposely, due to we put the arguments with not very care, or also maybe we don't know about the lot of information. The soundness of legal arguments depend on contexts in which the arguments are made. So like we have said that context is also the things before and after that. So legal argument depend on the context in which the arguments are made. So these legal arguments should be depending on the contents of the argument. Okay, and informal fallacies occurs because of an error in reasoning, unlike formal fallacy, which are identified through examining the structure of the argument. So in the informal there is error, but in formal there is something wrong with this structure. So Informal fallacies are identified through analysis of content of the premises. So informal, for to find out the informal fallacies, we have to check the content of the premise on what the argument on which the argument is standing. Formal fallacies are created when the relationship between premises and conclusion does not hold up, and when premises are unsound. Informal fallacies are more dependent on misuse of language or evidence. So basically there are two difference. There is a the difference between two is, one is the structural thing, a logical relationship, and the second and the other one is use of the wrong words or sentence. So we will going to discuss fallacies in detail in another chapter. Formal fallacies. Most formal fallacies are errors of logic, and the conclusion does not really follow from, and it is not supported by the premises. Either the premises are untrue or the argument is invalid. Below is an example of an invalid deductive argument. Premise: all black bears are omnivores, and the premises is all raccoons are omnivores. So calculate that all raccoons are black bears. Bears are a subset of omnivores. Raccoons also a subset of omnivores, but these two subsets do not overlap, and the fact makes that calculation illogical. The argument is invalid, and that is relationship between premises does not support the calculation. Informal fallacies are hasty generalization, so we quickly put some generalization without going into deep in the context, drawing a conclusion from an insufficient information. So, like I told you, we will be in another chapter we will going to detail all the kinds and types of fallacies. So this was just a brief introduction to these all terminology in philosophy, which was like truth, argument, proposition, and fallacies. So if you have any question, please let me know, and I hope you will listen very carefully, and if you have any questions still, please let me know. Thank you for your time.